Okay, so I wanted to talk about the update that Jürgen was mentioning earlier, um, and and I wanted to talk about what are the updates in the product. So as Jürgen mentioned, when you do decision about product, buying a product, you should base that decision on the latest features that are available and not some roadmap specific item that I may talk about from future looking perspective. So that's very important. Let's just go ahead. So you may have seen this particular announcement in different blog posts and LinkedIn posts, etc. Fusion Middleware 14.1.2 is now available. We released it on December 20th of last year. And what it contains or what it has as a bundle is WebLogic Server, Coherence. We also have SOA Suite and BPM Suite, of course, JDeveloper and Application Development Framework. We also have Web Center Suite as part of the offering, and the forms and reports as well. Along with that, we have the Oracle Data Integrator and Enterprise Data Quality. So majority of the Fusion middleware components are available as 14.1.2. As you can see in this particular slide, identity management will be available in this calendar year. And then Oracle Analytics Server, which is rebranding of BI Enterprise Edition with a lot of new features, will be available within this calendar year 2025 as well. The main thing that I want to highlight here, the common theme across Fusion Middleware 14.1.2 products, is the certification of the product line with JDK 17 and JDK 21. So you can decide to run either one of these Java runtimes for the middleware product that you are interested in. That is based on purely the decision that you take as an enterprise. WebLogic 14.1.2 supports Jakarta EE8. So please be aware of all these, all these points. Now, let me talk about SOA Suite specifically. So as we were mentioning earlier, SOA Suite is a product that focuses on application integration, and it does so using a variety of different components that are available for you to mix and match to achieve the desired result. Whether that is near real-time integration, which means sending a closed order, let's say in Siebel or Salesforce, over to the ERP of your choice, whether it's SAP or whether it's Oracle ERP Cloud or eBusiness Suite, etc., or running scheduled jobs for synchronization of data, like the changes that have happened in the day, passing that on to a database, for example, or from publish and subscribe perspective. So some particular event happens and you want to take action, or multiple applications want to take action on that. So you publish that particular event on a topic, and then all the subscribers get to know about that update and they process the data as they deem fit. So any type of integration pattern that you are interested in is supported and is available with SOA Suite. And as I mentioned, again, you can have varying degree of complexity within your integrations, which I'll talk about in the next slide, which focuses on the components that are available. So at the very basic level, there is the connectivity layer. So the connectivity layer focuses on connecting to variety of data sources and applications, as well as business partners. So that part is the B2B focus area. But essentially, the connectivity here is a concept called adapter, which has a one-time setup that you do for a particular resource. So if you want to connect to, let's say, eBusiness Suite, you create one connection using the adapter, and then the adapter uses that connection information to connect to the eBusiness Suite whenever required from whichever integration. Now, on top of that, you have the mediation layer or the service virtualization layer. This is called Service Bus. And what Service Bus is essentially focused on is taking data from one endpoint to another with certain transformations, composition that you'd want to do to that data. The core focus area of the service bus is to keep this entire flow as stateless as possible. In fact, the whole value proposition of the service bus is that it is stateless in nature. If you, however, require stateful orchestrations to happen, then you would do that through the BPL manager. What the BPL manager is able to do is provide you with the ability to save state of the orchestration at a particular point in time, and then to retrieve it at a later point in time when a particular step has successfully been achieved. So for example, assume that you are creating a new order, but in that particular order, there is a manual step involved, or someone has to go do something that is manually required. You could, or let's turn that use case. Let's assume there is a telecom company which is getting order to set up a landline. And then landline would require some physical work to happen in terms of connectivity, etc. So till that particular part is not done, you have to wait for that activity to close, and then you take the process forward, saying that okay, the landline has now been connected, and now we need to activate the subscription on that landline, etc., etc. So this particular saving of the state of the orchestration is what BPL Process Manager is its value proposition. In these cases, you may require business rules to be defined, certain decisions to be taken on the rules that have been laid out. So that's what the business rules engine enables you to do. And on top of that, we have this ability for analytics to be presented. These analytics are business user specific. So while there are a whole lot of analytics available at a variety of levels, which are focused on technical skills or technical people, the business analytics part is focused on how to take all this information about integrations that are happening at various levels and present to them in business user friendly way. That's what the business activity monitoring focuses on. So those are the core focus areas of the whole SOA stack. And when we say 14.1.2 SOA Suite has been released, what it also means is that there's a Service Bus 14.1.2, there's a BPL 14.1.2, and then the overall SOA Suite 14.1.2. What's not mentioned here, but I also want to reiterate, is that Managed File Transfer is also released a new version of it, which is 14.1.2. So the entire SOA Suite that you are aware of, all the components are available in 14.1.2 version. Let's then look at what it means from the perspective of support timelines. Now, this is just a visual representation. The arrows may be here and there. So if you want the final authority on this particular detail or data, then you should look at the lifetime support policy available on oracle.com. That has clearly mentioned dates for each version, each release, and there are clarifications or detail available about what is meant by error correction, end date, what is meant by premier support, till what date it's available for what release, and what are the components that constitute that particular release. So this is just a visual representation. You should always look at the lifetime support policy document to have the real data or the real details. So the focus here I want to put on are the two releases, SOA 12214. So 12214 will be under Premier support till end of 2026, which means December 2026. So the Premier support essentially means that we will continue to produce quarterly updates, quarterly patch updates, quarterly bundles that you're aware of uh, till December 2026. For those customers who are under extended support policy, they will continue to receive these patches, these updates for another year, which means December 2027. And then post that, we will be, the SOA 12214 will be in lifetime sustaining support policy, which means that um, in case you are still running that particular version and you face an issue, you raise an SR. Of course, the first advice would be to update to the latest release available at that point in time. But once the support analyzes the issue that you're facing, if there is a patch available, then they will issue the patch to you. If there is no patch available, then there would not be any any sort of patch that will be created because it's in lifetime sustaining support cycle. It also means that we will not be certifying that particular release against any new technology or any new version of a product that it was certified with earlier. Now, if you look at the SOA 14.1.2, that's been released under the standard 5+3 support policy that Oracle has, which means 5 years of Premier support and then 3 years of extended support. And then, of course, it will go into lifetime sustaining support policy, right? So that is the support timeline or the support life cycle. And, you may have questions regarding this. So please hold them off till the end of the session when we will go into a dedicated Q&A session. Now, with that being mentioned, let's look at what are some new features in SOA 14.1.2. Now, these features are specifically focused on 2 or 3 different areas that have been, top of the mind from product management and product engineering team's perspective. We constantly, get feedback from customers of the enhancements of the features that that SOA should have, and we certainly evaluate them. So please keep on providing us that particular feedback. It's very, very important for us, to sort of decide what's the next step, what enhancement should we be doing within this particular product. So the first one is the Apache Kafka adapter. Now, the Kafka adapter is a native adapter that has been created in SOA Suite 14.1.2. And this is primarily from our customers who have adopted Kafka for a variety of messaging workloads within their enterprises. So what this particular adapter enables you to do is set up connection to the Apache Kafka instance, and then it enables the orchestrations to either read from the Kafka topics or write to Kafka topics. And while they do this, while the adapter does this, you can also do transactional Kafka producer. It also, when it connects to Kafka, it supports multiple different protocols that Kafka, comes out of the box with. So specifically, we support the consumer groups. Now, consumer groups enable multiple applications or multiple clients to read from a specific topic in a load balancing way, if you will. Um, and we also support Kafka headers. So if you want to specifically, sort of provide a specific value within a Kafka header, then when you are doing that particular call to the Kafka instance, you can certainly provide or set that value before the call to Kafka happens. So that is something that's also available with SOA 14.1.2. Apart from the JSON and XML payload, we also support Avro format, which is specific to the Kafka setup and is heavily used by customers. And as I mentioned, there are a variety of security policies: SASL plain, SASL over SSL, TLS, and mutual TLS are what we support today. So this is one of the native adapters that we built in SOA Suite 14.1.2 for a variety of workloads that customers are using Kafka for, and they feel that with SOA Suite having a native adapter, it would be easy for them to natively work through. Now, we've had a variety of different solutions that different teams, different customers have used in the past. But with this particular adapter, we feel that it will bring value to customers, especially who are using Kafka in their enterprise. The other focus area for us is hybrid integration. And essentially, this would mean that while you have a lot of the applications currently running on-prem, you're probably looking at some sort of transformation, or if not, like moving from on-prem to cloud, you certainly are, looking at some sort of integration between maybe SaaS subscriptions that the enterprise is going in for. So in these cases, what you may want to be doing is using the iPaaS integration platform as a service available in public cloud, in a variety of public cloud, and specifically Oracle integration available on the Oracle Cloud infrastructure. Now, in these cases, there may be use cases where you want SOA orchestration to be able to invoke maybe some integration that's running on OIC, or vice versa, OIC wanting to leverage on some particular orchestration that's already been built within SOA. So in these particular cases, which we typically call as interoperability use cases, because it is either side, SOA to OIC or OIC to SOA, we have features which we introduced in 12.2.14 and enhanced in 14.1.2 for these interoperability use cases. So what you can do today is within JDeveloper, you can create connections to OIC Generation 2 or OIC 3 instance, and then be able to introspect the composites available, the integrations available within those instances, and be able to invoke them from composites or from orchestrations that you've built within SOA Suite. Similarly, in OIC, there is an integration adapter for SOA that enables you to introspect a SOA instance that may be running on Oracle Cloud infrastructure or on-prem, provided appropriate network rules and routes have been set up. One of the other things that we've done is to be able to invoke OAuth protected resources, and also support for OpenAPI documents to be converted into REST binding. So these are some of the interoperability and hybrid integration feature enhancements that we've done within the product, and we'll continue to focus more and more on this interoperability. Copying from JSON to XML and vice versa is also one of the features in that particular direction. The other thing that we've been doing, as I mentioned, we've been getting a lot of feedback on enhancements, on features that you would want in SOA Suite, and we've been constantly building them. Some of them have been released as features within 14.1.2. Others keep on coming as enhancement in the quarterly update patches that we make available. So some of the more important ones based on feedback from our customers are support for multi-part form data in the REST binding, as well as ability to view auto purge job history, directly from the EM console. So these are some of the things that customers, even though they sound small enhancements for customers who really, are dependent or looking at SOA or running large SOA deployments. These are very, very important for them, to manage that large fleet. So these are some of the customer enhancements. As I also mentioned in the earlier slide, there are enhancements that we are doing to the container functionality. By the way, we release containers every quarter, and the bare minimum that the container has for that quarter is the quarterly update patch. So one of the things that you may want to evaluate is to use the Docker container, or rather the container, in the lower environments, in standalone or deployed on Kubernetes. So that's one of the things that I want to sort of share with you. The other thing that I want to focus on is, while we are talking about the features in the SOA Suite itself as a product, I also want you to be aware of some of the changes that are happening in the underlying layer, which is the WebLogic server. So while WebLogic server has brought in a lot of new features along with Jakarta EE8 support, there are two features that I specifically want you to be aware of. The first one is the WebLogic Remote Console, and we'll talk about and we'll show it in a little while. The other one is the secured production mode. So let's talk about the first one, the WebLogic Remote Console. There is no WebLogic bundled WebLogic console in 14.1.2. So when you deploy 14.1.2, if you were to do http:// your server name :7001/console, which is what typically all of us do, you would see a message which says the console within the WebLogic server has been deprecated, and you should be using WebLogic Remote Console. So WebLogic Remote Console is essentially available in two flavors. One is a standalone mode, so it can run as a desktop application and connect to different WebLogic clusters, whether they are running on your desktop or on a server within the data center, or on OCI, etc. Right? So, or on Kubernetes cluster. So the single console can connect to different SOA instances. The other thing to note about it is that it's also available as a WAR file, as a web app archive rather, which you can deploy in the WebLogic cluster itself and use like like a console, but which is essentially giving you similar feature functionality that the earlier console used to give. So WebLogic Remote Console is a very important part of 14.1.2. And what I would want to highlight is that from SOA product perspective, we have specifically created assets that enable you to understand what are the various settings that you need to do from SOA perspective, whether it is setting up JMS, whether it is DB, database connections, resources, etc. We've created assets for these things. The other thing that I want you to be aware of is something called the secure production mode. The secure production mode is an additional option um, in the production mode domain configuration. So when you're creating new domain, you of course have the the development type and the production type, or production mode and development mode. Now, in production mode, you can choose to um, create secured production mode um, cluster or instance. And what this will enable, or what this will do, is that it will lock down the WebLogic to be accessed only via secured channels. So only via HTTPS or T3S. So this is very, very important. If you're creating a production mode, a secured production mode domain, then the only protocols that are available are the secured protocols. So you need to have uh, the security certificate, the digital certificate for connecting to that domain. Now, there are feature enhancements in the domain, the config itself, but this is something that you should be aware of, as a feature that's available in WebLogic 14.1.2. Um, so quickly on the path to upgrade, today the minimum requirement is SOA 12.2.1.4, and when you want to upgrade from 12.2.1.4, you would essentially have installation of WebLogic Server JRF and SOA binaries in a new Oracle home. The schemas would be upgraded in place. The instances are migrated during schema upgrade, and the domain directory is reconfigured and upgraded in place or updated in place. So essentially, the Oracle Home and all the other related, settings would point to the new deployment of WebLogic and SOA that you have now installed into. And the domain component configuration also gets upgraded in place. So with that said, before I would conclude on the presentation slide, I actually want to show you some of this so that you are aware of what's happening here. So let me stop sharing this and share the other screen. Jürgen, can you confirm you are able to see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So what I want to show you here is this is the WebLogic remote console. I will start with that. And you can see that I have currently deployed a desktop setup of this. And what is available here, what you're seeing here, are variety of tabs here. So one of them is called the configuration view, and the other one is called monitoring view. So monitoring view, of course, does not enable you to make changes to the setup. So I can see here, if I go into servers, it will tell me that in the cluster that's running on my machine, there are three servers running. One of them is the admin server, one of them is OSB server 1, and one of them is SOA server 1. Now, each one of these, by the way, is running as a standalone container, which you can see over here. You can see that there is a terminal here, and if I do Docker PS, you will see that there is this SOA admin server, SOA managed server, and the OSB managed server. You also see that there is a database running, which is the SOA database. So this is the RCU, and all of these have been running for a while. Like last 4 years, 4 hours or so. And then there is the OSB one, which I started just some time back. All this is running within Docker container. In my case, it is Rancher Desktop that is running with the Docker CLI available. And if you see here, I have this JDeveloper 14.1.2. So since there are so many things running, sometimes my machine may go into a little bit of performance degradation. So please bear with me. But what you can see here is this is the 1412J developer, and we have the quick start available. In fact, what I've deployed here is the quick start, and I have extended the domain by using compact domain. So if I go here to the application servers, um, this is what you would see here. So this is the whole cluster that's running on Docker. So if you see clusters here, you can see that there is an OSB cluster and there's a SOA cluster. And of course, there is only one server in this, one each that is running. Uh, the other thing that I have created here, which is currently shut down, is the on-prem deployment, which is the quick start. There's also the integrated WebLogic server, but I tend to use the container more because by just doing a Docker pull and restarting my instance, I can have an updated, patched, quarterly updated version or release of the SOA Suite. So also, if you see here, I have the database configured. So if we move to the database view, so you see the ID connections. This is the Docker data, or rather the database running on Docker container here. So that's the setup that I have. It will take some time to load the tables, etc. So yeah, we can probably look at the various table spaces that are available, and all the setup that we have. So this, by the way, is database 19 containers running. If I go back here, you would see that that I have these servers running, and if I just go ahead and do Docker stop, let's say OSB MS1, what it will do is it'll stop the service bus instance. So when I do a refresh of this, you will see that particular status. So let's just give it a minute. So that is done. If I do Docker PS now, you will see that we only have SOA MS1 and the admin server and the RCU database, right? So service bus instance is gone. So if I come back here and do a refresh, this should now show that that the OSB instance is down. Okay, so while that happens, I also wanted to show you here. Let's just go and do the EM. So I can do HTTP localhost 7003 and 7001/EM. Okay, so now if you see here, OSB server 1 is no longer available. Only SOA server 1 and admin server are running. Of course, there are a lot of things within this particular remote console. As you can see, it is laid out in the same way as the the WebLogic console was. So you still have access to all these work managers, deployments. So you can see that there are multiple work managers that SOA defines, which are already visible here. And then you have deployments here. So you could go ahead and do deployments. What you would do typically is that you can create a provider. So provider is essentially the various clusters that you have, and if you want to add a new one, there are a variety of ways to do that. You can import a project, or if you are aware of WebLogic, WebLogic deploy tool, then you can use the providers from there to create new instances or new records over here and then start accessing them. As I mentioned, there is an edit view and then there is a monitoring view. So monitoring view is read-only view of all the assets that are deployed on this particular cluster, right? So you can always view refresh report, and you can access a variety of different WebLogic resource over here. Okay, let's go back here to the EM console, and what you will see is the same EM console that you are familiar with is continuing to be available. And while I did not show you the service bus console, that's also available uh, to you. One ability that we have not made available in the service bus console is the pipeline editing capability. So pipeline editing capability is now only available in JDeveloper. Please make a note of this. We've had concerns from customers that the deployment pipelines were being overridden by people going directly to service bus console uh, through the web browser and making changes to pipeline without testing them in lower environment and then promoting them through over into production. So we've decided that the only place available for you to make changes to service bus pipelines is in the JDeveloper. So do make a note of that. As you can see here, so EM console functionality is available like it was earlier. So if I go into SOA Infra here, you will see all the all the expected capabilities. So there are, of course, tweaks that are done under the covers, but one of the focus areas for us also was not to break the experience that you've had with the product, and not make changes which you would make you relearn some of these things. So that has been one of the main criteria for us. Uh, and then one of the other things that I also wanted to talk about is the ability for you to define connection. So I've already created connection, if I'm not mistaken. Let's just go here and drag and drop a REST connection. Sorry, let me actually expand this. Okay. All right. So if I click on this, so you know that there is this Waddle OpenAPI document URL. I can always click here, sorry, and add a resource. And what this will bring up is, of course, this particular palette where we have this Oracle integration connect. And you see here that we have variety of connections. Now, of course, I'm integrating to a beta release of the product. Therefore, there are some glitches. This is a development setup, so this is sort of expected in live demos as well. What you can do here is you can do a new connection, and if you see here, the change here is that for Gen 2, OIC Gen 2, you can use basic auth for connection, but for OIC 3, you need to use OAuth. So we've provided the ability for you to add an OIC3 URL or OIC3 instance by providing OAuth details here, testing the connection, and then all the integrations would get listed here, right? Since we have time constraint, I'm not going into a full-fledged demo of that. I just wanted you to be, to be familiar with what is still the same or similar experience versus what is the net new experience, and what is totally something that you should evaluate and try and check up. So as you can see, I'm running the SOA standalone container images, which is connected to the JDeveloper. So think of it like, an instance that I have created as an application server instance here. All I have provided is, the same details that the wizard expects, only that I have provided, where to look for or where to connect to this particular container. And it has automatically set up everything. I can just go ahead, create a new application and deploy it on the container itself. So if there is enough interest, then we could probably do a later session where we could go into more of these details. Also, in the December customer update session, we had covered the SOA container functionality. Okay, so what I'm going to do, since we talked about a dedicated Q&A session as well, I would like to share my screen again for the last slide. So just give me a second, and let me just share my screen. Okay. So this is what we talked about from the perspective of the upgrade. As you can see, you should be able to try out this upgrade. Of course, side by side is still available, but you may want to try this out on lower environments. And of course, for those of you who are, sort of looking for some guidance slash guidelines of, like what to do. If you are continuing to deploy and expand on-prem, then definitely take a look at 14.1.2. There are new feature functionality. There is a newer JDK. There is a newer WebLogic server. So there is new functionality not just in the SOA suite, but the application infrastructure layer, which is WebLogic and Coherence as well. Uh, what I would also suggest is to evaluate the SOA containers, whether they are running standalone for dev sort of setup, or for production in terms of deployment on Kubernetes. So that's something that you can certainly take a look at. If you're looking at moving from on-prem over to cloud, then within the first quarter of this calendar year, we will have the SOA marketplace image 14.1.2 available. So that, of course, is something that you can evaluate in terms of your modernization. One of the steps within the modernization or transformation journey that you are undertaking. And then, if you are in that particular you know uh, uh, set of customers who has significant SOA investment on prem, but also are expanding in the iPaaS, specifically OIC, then I would definitely encourage you to take a look at the interoperability feature that we have within 14.1.2.